Hey guys, welcome back to the hot mess show that is All the Yarn. I am Lindsay. You can find me on Instagram under All the Yarn. You can find me on Ravelry as All the Yarn dash. You need that dash. If you're looking for the yarn that I dye, you can find me on Instagram under Linden Wool Yarn and on Etsy under Linden Wool. If this is your first episode, welcome. If this is not, then welcome back. It's great to see you again. So let's get started. Here is what I've been doing the last month. All right, so let's start off with, I gotta get it the right way. Yep, here we go. This is my Vertices Unite. It is a pattern by Stephen West. I cast this on with some friends. We were doing a virtual knit night on New Year's Eve, and a couple of us cast this on. I just kind of had a lot of fun with it. Everything was a leftover except for this green, the mint. The mint here was a full skein that I had wound up, or excuse me, I caked it up years ago. I have no idea what it is. I lost the label. It's pretty. It's got like just a little bit of that mustardy yellow kind of speckles in it. I don't know. My gut instinct is that it is Peepaloo Fields, but she closed down her shop years ago and I have no idea. It looks like her style of dyeing. That's the only reason why I think it might be her. It might not be. I have no idea what it is. But this is a Stephen West shawl. You start with this big section here, which is basically a small shawl all by itself. You can see I ran out of that darker mint and I put the light mint here. Just, you know, this to me was a stash buster, a scrap buster, and I just played around with it. The yarn that I used, this darker green that I ran out of right away, that is dye for wool, dye for yarn. Dye for yarn, she kind of goes by both. Dye for yarn, it's her merino camel base, and that is green sea. And I striped it with another dye for wool, merino camel base, dirty snow. This, it doesn't look like it, but it's that same dirty snow striped with this color. And like, they don't look that much different, but they are. So when I ran out of green sea, I started with the mystery mint and striped it and continued with the dirty snow. Hi. These stripes here, I'll do a little close up on these first two sections. The dark blue stripe with the white stripe, those are both La Bien Amie singles, La Bien Amie, her single base. The light color is Namu, the darker color is Hiloko. I have not been on her website for a while. I know the last couple times that I looked, I think Namu was a color that she wasn't carrying anymore, but that might be different now. I don't know. All of this has been in my stash for years. So a lot of these colors might be discontinued. I don't know. Let's see, the big square is that mystery mint. Let me see if you can tell on camera that I switched blues. Yeah, I kind of. So I started off, this particular rectangle is supposed to be knit as one single color. I always hate when I say I don't care for something. It's not that anything's wrong. I just knew that I wanted to do it different. I didn't want a big block of solid color, so I decided to add stripes. And I decided to not do every other stripe. I think I did every fourth row was a stripe. And I started off and I was gonna try it, and then I'm like, I don't like it, I'll just start right here. So this was kind of winging it as I go. But at first, these darker blue stripes are that same Hiloko, and then I ran out of yarn. So then I switched it to this. It's still a darker blue, but not this dark. This is the Plucky Knitter Plucky Single Base in Soda Fountain. And that's how I did that rectangle. Moving on to the next section would be this. This is Soda Fountain and a little bit of that Dirty Snow. This, the brown, here we go. The brown is Dye for Wool, Merino Camel Base, Too Hard Butter Cookie. And it is striped with the Mystery Mint. And then last, this is a solid section of Namu. I honestly love that color. Oh my gosh, I wish I knew what color she was using. Those are just beautiful. I love those speckles. And then I used the Plucky Knitter Soda Fountain as my border. This was so much fun. Oh my gosh. None of the rows got too long, which I had done that slip stravaganza and like those rows were 1,000 stitches. And it was like, oh my gosh. You didn't have any of that. I'm not going to say you got I think you get over 100 at a couple points, but it's not bad. And a lot of times, like you'll start long and get smaller. Oh my gosh. Between using up scraps and not having to deal with big long rows, I really liked this. In fact, my knitting friends that we kind of did this together, we were all like, let's start every year like this, where you just kind of collect your scraps throughout the year and just start your year off with something just, it was such a quick knit. It was a lot of fun. I did think the I-cord border was going to be just horrendous. Like, oh my gosh, that much I-cord. But, you know, I just came off that slip stravaganza. I was prepared. I was ready for it. So anyway, I love this. And yeah, Vertices Unite, Stephen West. Very nice. Nice scrappy stash buster kind of shawl. Okay, are you guys ready for this next one? I probably should have started the episode off with this one because this is the big shebang. Here we go. What? Right? Oh my gosh, it's done. This is my Zoom Along blanket. The squares are all made from my Clark & L 2020 Advent Calendar. So the Advent Calendar has 24 minis plus 1 full skein. And you guys, if you're binging, you'll remember. If you're not binging, you may not remember because I said this many months ago. I wanted to make sure when I bought my Advent Calendar, it was 75-25 superwash merino because I need the high yardage. The mini skeins for Advent Calendars are usually 20 grams and you get more yards out of a 75-25 mini than you do out of an 80-20 mini. So I was all like, oh, I got to make sure, I'm going to make sure I get the 75-25 mini so I get the extra yardage. I know I can get 6 Zoom Loom squares out of a 75-25 20-gram mini skein. I didn't do that. I thought I did, but I didn't. So I purchased an Advent Calendar that was full of 80-20 20-gram minis, and I did not have enough yardage in each mini to get 6 squares. Well, I always rise to a challenge. So what I did, see if I can find one that's really obvious. Here we go. I used my undyed yarn and I did 1 square out of each color that was roughly half of the mini skein. And whenever I ran out, and I just finished it with undyed yarn. So this year's minis, I got basically 5.5 squares, and that other half was my undyed yarn. And you can really see it in the center. I made my center square out of the, this color, the 5 is the full skein, and then each of these 4 squares is a half skein mini, half skein undyed yarn. So I just incorporated it and made it part of the design. And they're kind of all over the place. Those half mini skein, half undyed yarn, whatever. I don't care. Like, we use these blankets. There's the second one I do is in drastic need of repair. So that's actually out of circulation. And here I was thinking, hey, I've got 4 blankets now because this is the 4th one I've done. Everybody's going to have their own. Mom's not going to be without a blanket now. No, we're still back down to 3 because I had to pull the one out. It needs some repairing before we keep using it, or it's just, it's not going to make it. So we got to do some surgery on that one. But I did change a couple of things up on this blanket than what I've done on my previous ones. One of the things that I changed is I normally do 12 across and 13 down. And this year I did 13 across, 13 down. It just worked out better that way. I did still do kind of an X, but I changed kind of how I lay out the colors. I don't know that I can say I have a set pattern for it. I know how I don't really have a set pattern for how I lay out the colors. I just keep playing with it until I like it. And that's all. I mean, it's a lot of just moving the squares out. I've got a big space laid out on the floor. No one's allowed to come near my squares. And I just move them around until I'm like, oh yeah, that works for me. I don't believe there's a right or wrong way to do it. I feel like you do you. You're the one that's using the blanket. There's, you know, throw the rules out the window. So yeah, I did use my decorative crochet slip stitch to seam them all together. I put in an extra video on how I did the corners. The back this year is not the cotton gauze that I've been using the last 3 years. Kind of sad about that. The cotton gauze is not fun to work with because it's stretchy and I mean, it just moves everywhere. This year I washed it several times and I'm not going to iron my blankets. So it is going to be wrinkly. It's meant to be that way. Okay. This is a natural heavy duty linen from fabricstore.com. And I'll put the link down below. It's my hookup for where I get linen. I actually bought this linen because I had it in my head that I was going to make curtains. So I had bought several yards several years ago, and I don't know what I was thinking. I'm not going to make curtains. It's not going to happen. So I just had this laying around. I did not make bias. I just cut straight across because I don't like working with bias. Oh my gosh, I found that out last year. I thought this is for the birds. I am not dealing with this stretchy, movable BS. So I cut straight across, a couple extra strips. And look at that, no puckering. And there's no need for this to be stretchy. This is not, it's a blanket. It's not moving around. So it works. No more puckering, nice and straight. And I just cut extra strips. And I don't know if this is right or wrong. I did not sew the back to the front and then add the binding. I did it all in one go. I like to live dangerously. Yeah, so that's the linen. The undyed yarn, it's Euro fingering, I think, from Dharma Trading Company because it's cheap. And then the very pretty colorful wool is the Clark & L 2020 Advent Calendar. So yay, it's done. I'm so excited. And I love how quickly this blanket comes together using those Zoom Loom, pin loom squares. Yay, see the brights? I love it. Anyway, I am super excited about it. Okay, I have another FO, but I'm going to show it later. So let's move on to whips. Okay. I'm going to watch, I'm going to actually watch the time to make sure I don't spend a lot of time ranting about this. Here we go. This is my Strange Brew by Tin Can Knit sweater. The Strange Brew pattern is a $10 paid for pattern. It is a recipe for fingering weight, DK weight, and Aran weight, top down or bottom up yoke sweaters. So for $10, you're really kind of buying like 7,000 different sweaters. I mean, you got to put in some work to make the sweater, but you know, it is really, I should never have to buy another colorwork sweater. But I will. I mean, this was fun though. It was fun designing the yoke. I like the yoke. What I hate is the yarn. I do. And I have other kinds of Madelinetosh bases, and I love to work with them. This one sucks. I'm sorry. I'm just going to put a PSA out there. I don't even know if they carry it. I don't know. And if they carry it anymore, I bought this a long time ago. It is their ranch wool base, and it's listed as worsted. It's not. It's bulky, which I've talked about before. Everybody says it's bulky. I'm trying to use it for an Aran weight sweater, and I can't get gauge to save my life, which I'll talk about in a minute. But right now we're ranting on the wool, which caused all the problems in the sweater. So all my issues are because of this, and that's why I don't like it. It's full of vegetable matter. It's non-superwash, which I guess, you know, it's going to happen. But I mean, it's a lot of vegetable matter. And there's knots. And I'm talking like 6 to 8 knots in every skein. So I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. It being not worsted, not Aran, but bulky weight, threw off my gauge and has turned this into kind of a nightmare. I have knit a couple of inches past the arms and ripped back 3 times. And finally, I'm like, you know what? I already know that my favorite sweaters to wear are fingering weight and sport weight. I have a couple of DK sweaters, and I do wear them particularly when it starts to get super cold, and because I've been working from home. I don't like to wear the heavier sweaters to work when I work out of the office, because the office tends to be a little bit on the warmer side. And I also hate wearing coats over my DK sweaters, and I have to drive to work, and I'm complaining about small, minute things, but I have preferences and I'm allowed. So I already know this sweater is going to get worn, but not often. And with that in mind, I have decided I'm going to win. That's just all there is to it. So I have gone ahead and I have finished the sleeves, and I am working my way down the body, and I have tried it on. It fits in the way that, I mean, I can put it on and it neither sags nor is it restrictive. So it is wearable. This is how I judge when I'm cooking. Was it a successful cooking? Well, was it edible? Then it was a success. And that's kind of where the bar is on this. Is it wearable? Then it's fine. My gauge is way off. You are supposed to cast on a number of stitches, like 12 or 13. When you split the sleeves, you're supposed to cast on 12 to 13 stitches under the underarm. I didn't cast on any. And I called up my friend Tara and I said, what's going to happen? And she's like, well, it's going to change the shape of the sweater a lot. And I said, yeah, but if I cast them on, it's not going to fit. And she said, yeah, but it may look funny. I'm thinking, I'm only going to wear it maybe twice a year. Do I care? No, I don't. So we're going with it. We're going with it. And I will put this on next month and you will see what happens when you don't cast on any stitches under the underarm and you knit an Aran weight sweater in bulky and you just try to make it work. That's what we're going to see next month. I'm going to finish the sweater. And I told my friend Tara, we were laughing so hard on the phone because she's like, just rip this out and start over. You know, adjust all your numbers for the gauge you're getting and just start over. And I'm just, no, it's not going to happen. I'm going to finish this sweater and I'm going to like it. Like that's where we're at with this sweater. And I understand life's too short to knit the things that you don't like and blah, 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 blah. Life's too short for the yarn to win sometimes. And in this case, I'm going to win. I am going to win. I'm going to wear this sweater next month and I'm going to like it. That's where I'm at with this sweater. I don't even care. It's going to be done. I want the yarn out of my life. I will have yarn left over and I kind of just want to burn it, but I won't. I'm coming up with something else because burning yarn doesn't sound nice either, but I want it out of my life badly. So once I finish the sweater, I'm going to figure out a way to get it out of my life immediately. But that's where we're at with my strange Brew sweater. Isn't the yoke pretty though? I love the yoke. The pattern's fine. It is 100% this yarn. I'm going to finish it. It's living. I've got so much emotion on this sweater. I do. It's so emotional. I'm going to win. It lives in my fringe supply company portal bin because it's huge. Yeah, this is the only thing that I have that really, and it doesn't go anywhere. It stays in the house next to my knitting spot. And I do have a knitting spot. The kids know. I say, hey, mom's going to knit. And they jump out. They know. Don't be in mom's knitting spot. That's where it lives. Okay. Cleansing breath. Let's move on. All right. On to something much more pleasing. I am working on Locatelli's staple linen top. I've gotten part of it started. I'm a little concerned. It feels small. But we're going to keep going. I'm also concerned because I've already had to cut my yarn 4 times and it feels small, and I'm going to be sad if I have to start over because I've already cut my yarn. So hopefully it works out. Yeah, that's where we're at, folks. But this should be a quick knit. It's just a shell. It's nothing too crazy. It is, this is my leftover yarn. Not usually a pink fan, but love this coral. And I have just enough. I think I had to buy 1 more skein, but this should use up everything I've got. So yeah, it's living in this bag, which normally I like to coordinate my projects to my project bag. And I didn't because this is what I had out when I was working on Vertices United, and I didn't want to pull out another bag. So this is what we got. But that's coming along and I like it. It's been a lot of fun. I use it as my Zen knitting when I'm getting very frustrated with that other project that we're not going to bring up anymore. I have another whip. So I cast this on New Year's Eve, same night that I cast it on Vertices United. I just cast on 2 projects that night. I think so. I cast on 2 projects that night. And this is as far as I got. I can't pick it up. Here we go. I have found, oh, I'm sorry. What is this? What are you holding up, Lindsay? Well, let me tell you. This is Hart. It is a lace weight sweater by, I know this. It is a lace weight sweater by Julie Hoover. I am knitting this in my, oh, yeah, just like that. That is the color. It is my Fleece Artist Saldanha Base Stardust colorway. Yes, Yes, this is my color. I love that navy kind of black color. Can you imagine? And then it's a real classic kind of design, lace weight cardigan. Yes, but it's also a lace weight cardigan. And going from bulky yarn to lace weight, my fingers got confused. So it kind of got put on hold for a second, but I've knit an inch of the back. It is bottom up, which scares me. I don't normally like making bottom up sweaters, but I think it's going to be okay. We're going to go with it. I do like that there's a lot of seaming involved. I like cardigans that don't have raglan sleeves like this one. This one does not. This is more of a set-in sleeve, and they stay on my shoulders better. So very excited to see how this turns out. I'm hoping to make a little bit of progress every month, but this is not going to be something that I'm going to be putting a lot of time into because it doesn't, you don't see a lot of progress when you're knitting lace. And the days are kind of short right now, and this is dark yarn, and I really need good lighting to knit with it. So it's just like I'm gonna make little progress here at a time. This is my longer term kind of project. I am hoping to have it done by the end of the year though. Speaking of rabbit trail, I have decided not to do a make 9. I've been thinking about it all month, and I'm not gonna do it. I do have a goal though, and that goal is to knit 12 sweaters. So I have put 12 sweaters into my favorites folder for when I need inspiration. I am not committed to those particular 12 sweaters. I'm just committed to 12 sweaters. So my hope is that by the end of February, I will have 2 done. And that kind of takes me into the attitude of gratitude. I was looking through my yarns, and these 2 popped up, and I said, oh, hey, that's perfect because these happen to be the Pantone color of the year. They also happen to be 2 of my favorite colors. I wear a lot of gray, I wear a lot of yellow. Next to them, because when I started pulling them out, I suddenly remembered why I had bought these in the first place. Was this and this. Oh, what's that, Lindsay? Is that another navy, nearly black color? Why, yes. Yes, it would be. Yeah, I can't help myself. Anyway, these are all Madelinetosh. See, it's not a Madelinetosh thing. I like Madelinetosh yarn. I promise. Look, I'm using it. It's just that base. That base shouldn't happen. I hope it's not anymore. But this is Tosh Vintage. It is worsted weight, and it's actually worsted weight. Let's compare, shall we? Look. You tell me that's worsted and worsted. It's not. It's not. Anyway, moving on. We're moving on. We're not talking about that anymore. I promise. I promise. All right, we have Antler. We have Candlewick. Look at that. Oh, man. It's so pretty. Nocturne. Yes, you're Nocturne. Yes, you are. And Ashford gray, which happens to be my favorite gray that Madelinetosh makes. Okay, yeah. So I had bought these originally to be a colorwork sweater, and they've just been sitting on the shelf. And after pulling these 2 out and realizing, oh, these go with it, I'm pretty sure this is gonna have to be my next cast on. I have the sweater picked out. I'm not gonna share it because I might change my mind. But this is gonna be it. And hopefully that'll be cast on and have some significant progress by next month. But oh, I love shopping in my stash. Oh, anyway. So go ahead, search through your stash, find something you love. Maybe you'll cast it on right away. Maybe not. Just remind yourself what is there, because it's all pretty. You picked it out and you got great taste. Yeah, very pretty. Remember how I said that I had one more FO that I wanted to show you guys. Well, this has been an FO actually for quite a while. I just never, and you guys saw a lot of the progress. I don't think I ever showed you the final, hey, it's finished. So here we go. Yeah. This is an embroidery project that I was working on over the summer. Kind of sort of into fall, but mostly over the summer. And I finished it. Originally, I was going to do 8 fish instead of 4. I'm glad I stopped with the 4 because the space it's in is kind of small and this is the perfect size. So yeah, I'm sorry, I just keep moving it around. There we go. Went ahead, had it framed, and it looks spectacular where it is. So that's the other FO. It's kind of an older FO, but I thought I would share that because now I'm sharing this. This is a embroidery kit by Knitted Bliss Stitching. I thought we would just unbox it together. So here we go. Ooh, it's weird, you gotta do it up here. Isn't that sweet? Aww. Do you guys love good packaging? Okay, here we go. This is what's in it. Oh my gosh, this is so cute. So here is the piece. Oops. The colors are all my colors. Look at that. It's got that little pop of pink that matches the linen top that I'm making. Get a little closer here. It's got my teal, it's got that yellow, that dark navy, some white. Yeah, when I saw this, I had to get it. I mean, it's nice because it kind of marries embroidery and knitting, but it was the colors that sold me. I know my colors. I love my colors. I own my colors. So yeah, little sweater, hat, mittens, socks. Cup of coffee. Yeah, right up my alley. So anyway, I thought that was super cute. I feel like embroidery, for me at least, is more of a summer craft. So yeah, that'll be hanging out for a little bit, but as soon as I get started on it, you will be sure to see it. So that's a little bit of embroidery. And then finally, I had some questions about my looms. So if you're really here just to see the knitting, that's done and over with. You got a bonus of the embroidery, and now we're going to move on to weaving. First and foremost, the winner of Zoom Along 2020 was Frosted Cow on Instagram. I've reached out to you. I have not heard back. I'm going to give you until I podcast next. If I don't hear back from you then, I'm going to go ahead and draw another name from the entries. So just want to be open with everybody. I have not sent out a prize because I have not gotten contact information from the winner. And if I don't hear anything, I will choose another winner, because that was kind of the point, was that we would all have fun together and that somebody was going to get a free skein of yarn. And I just want to be open and honest that that has not happened, but it will, even if it means I got to choose an alternate winner. So just try to be upfront with everybody, you know? Anyway, so let's talk about looms. I have 5 looms. I usually only talk about 3 of them. And so here are 2 of them that you don't see me talk about much. And these are both made by Craft Sanity. They are a lot of fun. I did make buntings for the goblins. We had fun making them together. And it was one of those, I mean, they're fun, but I'll be honest, it was one of those things where I was on a high from being at a yarn festival. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to make all these buntings and it'll be fun. And I made them for my kids. And I'm like, this isn't for me. And that's okay, right? That's okay. There's nothing wrong with the looms. They're great. Triangles are just not my thing, I guess. They're just not. Nothing wrong with them. They're somebody's jam. I'll bet there's a lot of people's jam, and that's good jam. It's just not my jam. That's all. That's all. So these are two that I have for triangles. This guy gets a big workout every year. This is my Schacht Zoom loom, and I love this. I think they're like $36 to $40. You can get them, I know for sure you can usually get them at the Woolery. You can get them on Amazon. Etsy, different Etsy stores have them if you don't want to support Amazon. But anyway, this is my Schacht Zoom loom. It is a pin loom, and it's what I use to make the blanket that I showed at the beginning. All right, we're going to take a field trip. Okay. This is my Ashford 32-inch rigid Heddle loom. I have not worked on this scarf for a while, and I decided I am promising myself to have this done by the end of February. So this has been here for several months, and it's not moved. So I'm going to get this done. I do tend to just make scarves, so I probably personally should have gone with more of a 10-inch or a 16-inch loom. I did make the poncho. I think with the 32-inch looms, they're more appropriate if you like to sew, because then you can make cloth. I have discovered through this pandemic, sewing is not my favorite hobby. It is a skill that I'm not going to say I have it. I can run things through a sewing machine. I like that I have a sewing machine. I'm not getting rid of my sewing machine. It is a tool in my toolbox, and I want it, but it's not something I enjoy. It's not something that I'm going to start cranking out, you know, hand sewn dresses, hand sewn pants, shirts. It's not my thing. It's something that I do because I need to get to a final result in another project. So like my blanket, I don't mind running a seam through that because I like having the blanket with the backing and everything. But the idea of weaving cloth, so using the full 32 inches to weave cloth and then create something, I don't see myself doing that anytime soon. I could be wrong. Possibility is out there, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. I do like to make scarves. I like using my weave. I like using this particular loom in particular to eat yarn. So when I'm like, oh, I just want to destash, this isn't a skein that I really love anymore. I don't want to spend time knitting it. Great. I'll spend a weekend and I'll just knit it up as a scarf. And usually, this being the exception, once I get the scarf warped onto the loom, the scarf is woven up in 2 to 3 days. It doesn't usually sit here this long. So I have also thought about trying dish towels. I could see myself liking to do that, but a long time ago I made who makes it? It's the Absorba bath mat by Mason-Dixon Knitting. Mason-Dixon Knits. I'll link it. So the Absorba bath mat is a huge yarn eater for cotton yarn. And it's a knitting pattern, but you basically hold, I think, 4 or 6 strands of cotton together and knit it up. It's a great bath mat. I use it a lot. Moms of young children, it is so nice to have that when your kids are at that age where you have to help them with their baths, and you know your knees kill because you're leaning, and you know you're kneeling and you're leaning over and everything. Highly recommend the Absorba bath mat to as a place for your knees because it's very bouncy. Anyway, though, it ate up, just FYI. But anyway, after I knit that, I have hardly any cotton left. But I would have to buy cotton yarn to make a dish towel. And I originally bought the Loom specifically to eat up my knitting yarn. And so I'm really, really a fan of the scarf. So for those reasons, I wish I had gone with a smaller loom. I kind of wish I'd gone with something more of like a 16-inch loom. I could make dish towels on that. I could make scarves on that. It would take up a lot less space than this. I have what I have now, and I don't hate it. I can make my scarf on this just fine. It's not a problem. It does take up a lot of room for what I'm doing. So when you're thinking of jumping into rigid heddle loom, excuse me, if you're thinking of jumping into rigid heddle weaving, from a knitter's point of view, you kind of have to think through what is your goal in weaving? Do you want to build a weaving yarn stash, which I have started to do, but not because of this loom. And what is it? What are the kinds of projects that you want to make from this? Do you want to make bolts of fabric? Meaning, do you like to sew? You know, so if you're going to make bigger strips, then you must also want to be able to sew those, you know, you got to sew things together. Or is it, you're just, hey, I've got, you know, 300 skeins of sock yarn. I would like some of this to get used up, and I don't know that I necessarily want to knit it. Well, hey, let's talk about, you know, a 10 or 12 or 16-inch loom where you can use up a skein in a weekend, a skein of sock yarn in a weekend, and it's going to weave up a lot faster than it's going to knit up. And I have a 1 skein scarf pattern that I use, that I direct warp onto the loom and weave it. I mean, the direct warping only takes, I want to say, an hour maximum. I feel like it's shorter than that, but I'm going to say an hour just to be generous. And then, you know, you just weave it. I've done one in 24 hours and I still got 10 hours of sleep. So it was really like 14 hours, and there was meal breaks and there was like parenting breaks. So it works up really quickly. And that was my purpose in buying a loom, was to eat up, well, a rigid heddle loom, was to eat up my knitting yarn. So again, I don't hate this. I kind of wish I had thought through the reasons why I was getting it. I probably would have gone with a smaller loom. I know at the time I thought, well, hey, go big or go home. You can always weave smaller things on bigger looms. And that's all true. As you can see, you can weave smaller things on bigger looms. And I have a lot of options here. And that's great. And I'm okay with it. For what I use it with, it takes up a lot of weight. It ends up taking a lot of space that I just don't use. So I do like the Ashford brand. The Ashford brand is on the cheaper side of rigid heddle looms, and I appreciate that. It's a great, I mean, when you're looking at looms, Ashford is a great price point. It does come unfinished, which I think, so the wood comes unfinished. This is a Heddle that's fairly new. I haven't used it yet, and I haven't finished it yet. These I have used Danish oil on. So I just bought a can of Danish oil, and then as I buy pieces, I do 2 coats of Danish oil, let them dry, and that's how I finish. That's how I finish my Ashford pieces. You can use it without finishing. I didn't want to. I mean, you can. It's fine. It's not gonna break it. You might start seeing fingerprints. But yeah, so the Ashford loom does come unfinished. You need to finish the parts if you want to Lots of people don't. There's no loom police, just like there's no knitting police. No one's gonna know. So those are my thoughts. I bought this to use up knitting yarn. I'm okay. I don't necessarily regret that I have a 32-inch loom. I just know personally I won't be knitting a large poncho anymore. I really just want to be able to knit, weave scarves. It's crossed my mind to buy a smaller one that then is also portable, which I like that idea. But I don't know if I'm ready to pull the trigger on that yet. I will say that, especially if you're coming from knitting into weaving, you can't buy looms like you buy knitting needles. I, for one, when I want to cast on a project and I have maybe too many whips going on and I've run out of size 4 needles, okay, it's $10. I'll just buy another set of needles. If you've got some weaving projects going and you want to weave a new project, you got to finish a project. Or cut your warp and say, hey, I'm done with this, and pull it all out in order to warp a new, like you can't just buy another loom. I mean, you can, but it's not going to be $10. And same with crocheting. You know, if you're huge into crochet and you're jumping into weaving, same thing. If you run out of that hook, although with crochet, I'll bet like it's not stuck on your hook. I wonder if you just borrow the hook and start another project. I don't know how that works. I know kind of how to crochet. I crocheted on that blanket, but to jump project to project, I don't even know if you need another hook because you just pull it. I don't know. I don't know how that works. You guys can let me know. But if you're jumping from crochet to weaving, again, it's hard to have multiple projects going because that means you have to have multiple looms. It's kind of price prohibitive. You can't just do that. So this is my Ashford. It's got a lower price point, but I think it works fine. I've done many scarves. I don't know how many. Okay, we'll say a handful, like maybe 5 or 6. I don't remember what number I'm on, but I've done a handful of scarves. Those are by far my favorite project. They're quick. That was the other thing with, the poncho. I mean, it ate up a lot of yarn. That was great. And I really enjoyed that as summer was kind of heading into fall and we would be outside and it was just kind of starting to get chilly. I would just throw that on. I mean, that was nice to have. So I like it. I just don't want to make another one, you know, but it didn't go as fast. Well, the warp was a lot longer, so it just took forever to get through that warp. And I really just wanted to make a scarf, and I couldn't until I finished the poncho. So that was kind of frustrating. But anyway, Ashford's an okay brand. I like mine. What size should you get? Really depends on why are you doing this. If you get the 10-inch loom and you love it and I don't know if I would ever go 10-inch. I would probably go to like a 16-inch loom because then you can make scarves, you could make dish towels. 16 inches, you could almost get away with a wrap. And there is such a thing as double width weaving where on a 16-inch loom, you can make a 32-inch wide piece of fabric. So you could make a wrap. You would just, I mean, it's a technique. It's not like, oh, hey, my first project's going to be a double width weaving project. I mean, good luck. It could be, but good luck. It's kind of like, hey, it's my first knitting project. I'm going to steek. Oh, good luck. You know, not saying it can't happen, but good luck, you know. So I love rigid Heddle weaving. From a knitter's point of view, it's a great second hobby to have, using up that same yarn that you love to buy. I love buying yarn, and I can use that same yarn in both knitting and weaving. Eats it up. It's great. So I like it. What size to get? What do you want to make? What do you want to, you know, and I know I've on a couple of rigid, there are Facebook groups for rigid Heddle weaving. A lot of them say go big. Do you like to sew? That's the only thing. Just, do you like to sew? Think about it before you buy it. It's a lot of space. 32 inches is a lot of space. Okay, I have one more loom. Okay, so this is a Schacht 4-shaft table loom, and I bought mine used off of Craigslist. Table looms are pricey, floor looms are pricey, and there's kind of a thing in the weaving world where yes, you are weaving when you're working with a rigid heddle loom, but it's not like real weaving because it doesn't have, because your heddle is a rigid heddle, it doesn't have moving heddles. You know, so here are my 4 shafts, my 4 heddles, and it is a big jump to go from a rigid heddle to a table loom or a floor loom. Big jump, big learning curve. The learning curve to go from knitting to rigid heddle, or to go from, well, I'm going to go with that. To go from knitting to rigid heddle weaving was not hard. I understood tension. I watched 20 minutes of, I want to say, an hour and a half Craftsy class. I didn't even watch the whole thing. I thought, oh, I see what she's doing. Got it. You know, and went with it. And I would say, I'm glad I went from knitting to rigid heddle weaving to this kind of weaving, because I learned things on the rigid heddle that, like, even going from rigid heddle weaving to this was like mind blowing, like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? So I'm glad I have the rigid heddle there. I would not have wanted to jump straight to this. You can, it's fine. I'm just glad that I didn't. But it's a big step. It is not just oh, I'll just take the next step. It's a big learning curve to the point that I was so overwhelmed. I knew warping was going to be a problem. I have only ever direct warped onto my rigid heddle. I never used a warping board and then warped onto the heddle. I always direct warp onto my rigid heddle. It's quick, it's painless. Why would I do it another way? Well, with this, I need to do it another way. You gotta have a warping board. You gotta set up your warp. You gotta blah, blah, blah. And it was a little overwhelming for me. There is a woman in, I believe it's Illinois. Yes, there's a woman in Illinois that offers a Warping 101 class. It's virtual, and she offers it every couple of months, and it's free, and she only allows up to 8 people in the class. So again, I was in a Facebook group for 4-shaft weaving, found out about the class. It wasn't offered at the time, so I signed up for the newsletter, got the newsletter, found out when the next class was, set my timer, got registered, and it was wonderful. I was by far the newest noob to weaving. Everybody else had been weaving. They start talking about overshot weaving and tabby weaving, which, by the way, tabby is just like regular weaving, kind of like stockinette. I mean, it's like you just got to learn the terms, and I didn't know what tabby weaving was, which if you're a weaver, go ahead and laugh. It's okay. I'll laugh at myself. But everybody else knew how to weave. They knew how to warp. They just wanted to brush up or see if there was another way. They were just learning to learn. Great. I was learning because I was lost, and they were so kind. So it was really nice. I will go ahead and link that woman's website. So if anybody else is getting into this kind of weaving and you're kind of overwhelmed, you can check it out. I highly recommend her Warping 101 class. Okay, so this is a 4-shaft table loom. What makes it a table loom is that you control the heddles with your hands versus a floor loom, you control the heddles with your feet. If they cost the same, go with the floor heddle. But they don't. Floor heddles are a lot more expensive. So I will be using my hands to change the heddles. There's not a big difference in warping them, and there's not a difference in what you get out of them. The difference is you can weave a lot faster with a floor loom because you just got to move your feet to the heddles versus stop, pull, push, pull. I mean, there's a lot of moving around with your hands on a table loom that you don't have to do with a floor loom because you just move your feet around. And so you can get through projects a lot faster. But as I said, floor looms are a lot more expensive than table looms. So I went with the table loom. I went with the used table loom because it is a bit cost prohibitive to get into weaving. That's just no lie. It is. This is a 20-inch loom. And I like this size. This is the size that I kind of wish I had gone with for my rigid heddle. I had learned my lesson on the rigid heddle, so I knew I wanted something narrower. Yeah, I mean, I gotta tell you, so I'm very much still learning. This, I'm using 8/4 cotton. I can see why people use 8/2 cotton, and so I've bought some of that. So now I have a weaving yarn stash that I'm building up specifically for this loom, not so much for the rigid heddle. My rigid heddle loom really is for weaving my knitting yarn. That is what I got it for. That is what I like knitting on it. This is for weaving my weaving yarn. I will say, I am very much still learning. This is my very first project. I just took the class in warping in December. I warped it in December. I began weaving in January because I wanted to be part of the New to You 2021 make-along that's going on Instagram. So I didn't start weaving until January 1st. It was originally going to be a waffle knit. Well, okay. Let's back it up. It was originally going to be a waffle knit dishcloth, as in like a washcloth. Do you see look how long that is? Look at that. See how long that is? That's not a washcloth. This is a dish towel. And it's a dish towel because I'm still learning how to weave. It was supposed to be a dishcloth, and then once I warped it, or once I slayed my reeds, I thought, oh, this is really wide. You know what? That's okay. I'll just make a towel instead of a dishcloth. It's fine. It's not a problem. You know me. So it started off as waffle weave. It looked awful. It looked so bad. I mean, I was trying to be okay with it, but it really did look bad. So because I have yards and yards and yards and yards of warp, and I was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches into the weft, which is this part, I thought, you know, this is worth pulling it all out and starting over. So I pulled it all out, I reset my heddles, and I'm going with a twill. We're going with the twill weave instead of the waffle weave. It is much more enjoyable. And I'm gonna bring you in. You ready? Whoop. Got a little zigzag going there. I am playing around with the twill. Honestly, this project is just about trying to understand the tension, because the tension is different between this loom and my rigid heddle. I am trying to understand how the patterning goes. I'm trying to get the feel for moving my shafts around. So this is all about playing. I'm going to end up with 2, 3-ish dishcloths. I don't remember how long my warp is because I don't ever write anything down. So I don't know how many dish towels I'm going to get out of this. Whatever I get out, and I'm going to be okay with it. But yeah, so this is 20 inches. This is really much more my style. So if you are just looking into weaving and you're not looking to make it like a huge jump, I'd go rigid heddle. Watch a couple YouTube videos. It's not too bad. I'm not saying you don't have to learn anything, because you do, but it's not too bad. As far as which size, I really like that 16 to 20, maybe 16 to 24 inch size. To me, that's the sweet spot. It's not massive. My 32-inch rigid Heddle feels a little massive. And that's my opinion. You know, you gotta remember, one woman out of, you know, billions, and this is my one little opinion. But I like this size. It's easy to weave really cool patterns because you've got these shafts that, these Heddles that move up and down for you, and it's nice. Can you do things like this on your rigid Heddle? Yes, you can. Did I want to? No, I didn't. I want my rigid Heddle to be very just to the point, easy. Like I have learned that's what I want out of rigid Heddle weaving, and that's what I've learned about myself. Everybody's different. So I like the 20-inch size. I'm enjoying weaving. I am enjoying, I'm having fun with it. This is a lot of fun. I really enjoy weaving on my rigid Heddle loom. It's a different kind of weaving and I fully enjoy it. I very much love weaving on my pin loom. Again, a very different kind of weaving, but I like it. And so it is nice to have the different styles of looms. Because, you know, what kind of mood am I in today? Do I want to do something that is super easy to do but looks really intricate? Do I want to have something where in 20 minutes I've got a finished square, I'm done, you know? Or do I want to take a couple of days and be like, hey, I just got a skein of sock yarn out of my stash. So very different reasons of why I use each of the looms. I do have also the triangle looms, which there's nothing wrong with them. I feel really bad that I don't use them more, but I really think I bought them because I was high on Fiber Festival fumes. You know, you just start smelling the sheep and you smell the llamas and you're just like, you know, you see something and it's like, oh yes, absolutely. And then you get home, it's like, okay, what were we thinking here? You know, I mean, it does happen. It does. And I have been a victim to it. So anyway, I haven't been weaving that long. So that's kind of my first impression, having the rigid Heddle for a couple years, pin loom for a couple years, and this for 6 months, maybe, working on my first project. So that is my beginner level, beginner's guide, because I'm still very much a beginner to weaving. If you're thinking about jumping into looms, here's all of my first impressions. So that's all I have today. Like, share, subscribe, comment, say hi to me. I hope you guys had fun today. Thanks for hanging out and make good decisions. See you later.